and a bit of morbid fun. Murder We Wrote is a true crime podcast themed party game for 3 to 8 plus players. Here's how to play. Podcaster flips out a victim. Yes, actual wording. Players pick a suspect and how they think the deed was committed. Then the podcaster reveals who they think the true killer is.
Talking about Murder We Wrote.
A true crime podcast party game, which we also blind bought because it was fun.
Yeah, totes and goats. So, Murder We Wrote is very similar in concept to like Cards Against Humanity, Apples to Apples, stuff like that. Balderdash. Except with a twist. That twist being you have to spin a yarn to explain your combination. So every turn you have a host. The host is the host of the podcast. The other players are witnesses. And so they say who committed the crime and with what.
Based on their cards. So like there's one of them that I won because I said it was Scooby and the gang with capitalism because they've been traveling the world.
It wasn't capitalism. It was the crashing housing economy.
Housing economy. Because they were traveling the world since the 60s to solving all these murders and horrors that are out there. And I mean, so everyone's been terrified of all these different places. And so the housing market just crashed there. And, of course, all these businessmen go to jail. And so after doing this for decades and decades and decades since the 60s, the housing market all across the U.S. is just shot. Which is why this person lost all their money and died.
Yes.
And then add other things like an old lady who had lots of cats.
Yes, the one that he beat me on was a giant ape. And I said that the giant ape was murdered by Shrek, who was hopped up on Monster energy drinks and spun a yarn. But then Jer said that he was killed by a crazy cat lady and her weapon was capitalism. And I lost.
Because the ape was making it so she couldn't afford cat food at the pet store because the ape was getting all the food from there. And she needed enough food to get 7 more cats to her cat army.
Yeah, so if you're like a person who enjoys creative writing, a person who enjoys improv, a person who enjoys just kind of riffing, this is a great game.
Or like Ultimate Werewolf. It's like playing games like Ultimate Werewolf or Mafia, and you can actually play it. This is a good game for that.
Yes.
Because you can come up with stories and do it. And in fact, this would also be really good for like theater class.
That's true. Yeah.
Or even creative writing class because it's a fun game, but it also helps get the juices going. And the prompts are really random enough to make things work. Like you can have Sesame Street characters murder people.
Yeah.
Skype was one of mine.
Peppa Pig, Hank Hill.
Like it is very random, but it's also a lot of fun. There's not a lot of pieces in there. It's basically just cards of victims, and weapons, and murderers.
The victims and the murderers are in the same stack of cards. So it's not a lot of cards. It's a very, very compact game. This box is probably actually too big. It's very compact.
And you go for 2 rounds, so everyone's done it twice. So basically in a round, like if I was the podcaster, I flip over who was murdered, and then the other people each get to pick a murderer and a weapon, and then they have to tell me their story, and I listen to it, and the one I like best, I pick.
And he can like it best because it's the most realistic. He can like it best because it's the funniest. He can like it best just because it like resonated with him for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be like in Cards Against Humanity where the goal is to be the funniest. That doesn't have to be the goal. It can be realistic and just like 100% believable. Like that's a good story. I would go with that. Yeah, it's very, very fun. I enjoyed it. I lost. I was the loser.
Probably more the merrier, the better, though.
Yes, definitely. Because it says 3 to 8. We played with only 3.
8+.
Yeah, we played with only the 3 of us. I think that the more, the merrier would definitely be.
Probably wouldn't do it with young kids just because of the whole imagination part.
Yes.
But definitely as a party game, if you have a lot of people and you see something bust out, this is a great game for that.
Yeah, it says 14 plus.
Since it's only 2 rounds, there should be plenty of cards for quite a few people.
Yeah.
And
pretty quick.
There's a lot of good laughs you can do.
Yeah, we had a good time. But yeah, that was Murder We Wrote. Yeah.
True crime.
Okay, thanks, bye.